Well, hi there, everyone. This is a video about the NBA algorithm Excel file and how to update the NBA algorithm. And more specifically, we're going to go over the cube sheet today. Cube sheet has some complexity to it that's not necessarily all that intuitive. And so it kind of requires me to go through each column by column to explain what they do, which columns are formulas, which columns are values, and how to turn formulas into values so that you can maintain your database of games throughout the season and update it from day to day. So I've done other videos about other sheets in this file and how to do a lot of the copy pasting from RotoWire to get your stats in here. But I haven't really done an in-depth video about just the cube. So we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to do it while we prepare tentative projections for Saturday, the 29th, even though they're not going to be finalized yet. But we will be able to get a rendering or a projection for those games by the end of this video. And we'll show you how we get there in the cube. So first thing, the odds compiler sheet. I just went and I grabbed the odds that were available for the games on Saturday, the 29th, and I pasted them right here. Okay, this was blank. I brought them in and I pasted them right here. That's going to create this area over here that does a little adjustments and has some formulas related to the games. This is the area that we need to import into our cube for the new day. So we're going to talk about the new day first, and then we're going to talk about what we do with historical stats after we're done with that. So most important thing is the new day. So after we pasted in the odds here, you go over to your cube, and I have deleted all the rows there were some formulas in the version I had sent out to people today. They went all the way down. They went down all the way to row like 1200 or something. There were a lot of other formulas here, and I want to talk about how you recreate them and what you need to do to set this up for tomorrow. So let's start with column one, being the date. Tomorrow is the 29th, okay? The projected scores are a formula, and I keep them as a formula the entire year. That may be something we change later, but as for right now, you can just keep it as a formula. It's gonna be fine as long as you freeze other cells, but we can just leave it as a formula. That will end up being pulled down when we have our entire list in here, okay? The result is where you type in the result scores of the game, which we'll talk about later in this video. So you got the date here. You're going to type in scores here. This is a formula that you just pull down, okay? Team. Now here's where we're going to start connecting to our cube. Now notice that in the formula that's up here, it says odds compiler, D20 odds compiler. This is a formula that's referencing the odds compiler. And when we're done with the odds compiler from the previous day, we want to turn all these formulas that say odds compiler into values. So you can see the ones above them are just the name of the team. They're not odds compiler. So we can actually do that right now because we're done with Friday for the most part. So you could copy this, paste special values, or paste special and the values one right here. That's going to turn this into just the team name and no longer a formula. If this was a formula, you would do the same, although I already brought the date, the time in as values. The marginal win score is a formula that can stay here forever. You don't need to turn this one into values because you actually need to paste this one further down when we end up bringing in today's stuff, okay? The power strength. I leave this as a formula right now because leaving this as a formula here allows us to go back to the results pivot sheet and to toggle this current or last for the day we're looking at, because this day is not over yet. So it allows you to see the projections in both last season and current season stat mode. That's why I don't change this. This is what's changing whenever we determine which year of stats we're working with. This power strength changes. The lines don't change, the spread doesn't change, and the operating strength will change when the injury report is updated. But if you've got the most current injury report, these are all done. So this entire area right here, I'm going to turn those into values. I'm going to copy and paste values, okay? So now you've pretty much frozen the previous day with the exception of this area, which you'll want to freeze tomorrow when you're done entering all the scores in. But we leave it there for now. Now, what about all this gray stuff over here on the right? These are formulas that you need to bring in to, you need to bring them further down in order to get all these other games to work and to calculate. In order to do that, you highlight in twos. So you cannot just highlight one row and pull down. That doesn't work. You actually have to highlight two rows at a time because the home and away is a two-row formula. So you highlight this area and then you use the autofill function and you pull down as far as you want. And I put a lot of extra rows in there so I don't have to keep doing that every single day. You can pull it down pretty far. So now we've got these formulas over here to the right done. Well, what else do we do to get tomorrow in here? Because you can see it's blank over here. Well, you're going to go into the cell right here, this first available cell. You're going to type equal sign, then grab the mouse, click on the odds compiler sheet, and click on the team that we need to grab. Miami Heat is the first team playing on Saturday. Press enter. Okay, so the formula there is equals odds compiler and the cell that you want to hit in this column to put this in order. Now what you can do is you can copy this cell and you can paste the FX, which is paste the formula, and you can paste it here and you can paste it all the way here as well. And it will read the proper order and it will grab the proper information, except it's not grabbing. Oh yeah, this is, ooh, sorry. So I just realized I screwed up. Let's back up. See, this is a little complicated. We're going to back up and we're going to back up to health because I screwed up the health. That's what I did. I should not have frozen the health percentage yet. I actually should have done this. Okay. When I grab the two rows, you're supposed to pull the health percentages down also because that's a formula. So we just did that. And you want to keep it on an even or odd amount. As you can see, you want it to end with home on the bottom right here. There's a home right there. So I just brought in the operating strings. Now we can go back and we can freeze this stuff. This is why you have to do it in a certain order. Is you want the formulas because you need to pull down some of the formulas when you set up the next day, like operating strength. You don't need to pull these formulas down because we're putting them in manually. So let's go back to doing that. Equal sign, odds compiler, Miami Heat, it's the first game. Copy, paste the FX, which is formulas. Paste the FX. Paste the FX, just formulas. And now you can start pulling these down and you'll have a full list of the day here. And you can actually pull all these down and then pull the date down and pull the score down. And you've prepared tomorrow. Is what you've done. This is the first game right here. All these games are on the 29th. It would say the Heat would beat Sacramento 114-106 based on current season stats. So let's take a look and refresh this right now. You click on the 29th after you refresh this, you start to see what it picks based on current season stats. This will also dynamically change when you do the last as well. You can see stuff changes in order and teams change which one the algorithm thinks will win because we're using a different subset of statistics to determine that. Eventually, I really think by November 1st, we could probably go to current the entire season. It's going to be getting better and better and better, but we'll keep tracking the results every day just to validate that and make sure that that is true. So now you've got this done. And as you enter in scores, like for the day, like say Charlotte wins this game exactly the score we say, you could copy this and paste it as values so it'll never change again. I don't do that. I just leave it there. I mean, I don't really mind. You could copy this and keep it, but then you won't be able to check yesterday comparing last to current here because it won't change. So I just leave this stuff. And I don't worry about recording a perfect history of everything over time because, I mean, what's the point? Like, I know we all want to know how much this thing is winning, but we can tell that by looking at our bankrolls and looking at our bets. And I'm fine with anecdotally understanding that it's working and just, reviewing it every day. rather than making sure this thing is exactly perfect with whatever arbitrary percentage we went with right before the game started. Because there are going to be injury reports that change. It's not really worth it to, like I was telling somebody, it's not really worth it to pull your hair out about worrying exactly that the history is perfectly correct, because why? I mean, it's just too much work. This is a database that you want to use to predict the future. So a lot of this can be retroactively changed to sample different distributions here to see what would have worked the best instead of what you actually did for that game and that day. That's oftentimes much more valuable to run those tests so that you can get a better distribution for the future than actually really caring about what it was that we actually had, days ago. It's not all that important, in my opinion. Obviously, we want to win, but keeping that level of records is just really frustrating. So after you get all the scores in, you're going to get results, and you could freeze this if you want to, but you're just going to be working with the next day, and you want to make sure that if you want to keep the old health percentages in there, so you know who was injured when. I copied these, I turned these to values, but these are still formulas. And when these games are done, say all these games finish tomorrow, right, and all the scores are here, then you would freeze these health numbers. You would freeze all this stuff. Copy, paste values. Whoops. You would copy, and you would paste values here. Same thing with all that stuff. So that's basically how the cube works. All this stuff is essentially formulas that need to be pulled down to talk to all these columns here. It's kind of how this works. So I know it's a little convoluted and it is a little complex, but I hope that answers all the questions and it goes through what each column does. The marginal win score is a formula that stays here all the time because you want it to change every time you change the power strength. It's related to the power strength. So it's fine to keep this a formula. And I think I have it as a formula all the way through. All right. So that's the setup. That's the prediction for Saturday. I like current stats. You got a 340 Hornets against the Warriors. Wow. We'll see if they win tonight. We don't have a line on the Bulls Sixers game yet. And a 450 for Brooklyn, for Indiana. Let's see what that looks like in last year's stats, though. I want to know. Yeah, Indiana is a negative 11% margin in last year. So that one's really risky. Are there any other underdogs? You got Utah against Memphis. That should be a good game, but we'll see how Utah's injuries are impacting tonight's game because they're at 76% right now. And I don't know who's hurt. I didn't look. I probably should. All right. So that is the update or the how-to video basically on how to mess with the cube. And if you're on an Apple device, things might look a little different when you're copying and pasting. So you need to look for the paste special options, which are definitely there on Mac Excel. And you need to find, when you copy something and when you go to paste special, you should get a menu screen that looks similar to this and find the values one, because that just turns a formula into a static value. That's the whole point. All right. So good luck, everyone. I hope that helps, and may all of your picks be winning.